So today we're working on lesson 7-2, and it starts on page 232. And this is all about multiples of fractions. And so it talks about if you're baking muffins and you want to do like a double recipe or a triple recipe. And so there's a few different ways of doing it. When you're thinking about doing repeated addition of fractions or multiplication of fractions. So if you look in the lesson, it says there are some kids, Suma and her sister, are baking some blueberry muffins, and if they wanted to do 3 recipes, if they want to triple the recipe, I'm looking at 1A, it says how many teaspoons of baking powder would they need? So in the recipe says they need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So if they have 2 teaspoons of baking powder and they're doing 3 recipes, they'll have 2 teaspoons and 2 teaspoons and 2 teaspoons. So they would have a total of 6 teaspoons. You could do it with 2 plus 2 plus 2, or you could do it tripling the recipe times 2 teaspoons equals 6 teaspoons. Teaspoons, there we go. But if we needed something to triple with a fraction, and if we look here, it says maybe a half of a cup of whole wheat flour. So if I were still trying to triple my recipe, I could say, actually, 3 times a half a cup equals what? But I could also do it as 1/2 cup for one recipe, 1/2 cup for another recipe, and 1/2 cup there. So there's still that 3 groups of 1/2, and this is also 3 groups of 1/2. And so then you have 1/2 and 1/2 is 1 whole. So you would have 1 1/2. If we wanted to do 3 groups of 1/2, I could also take my whole number and do 3 times 1 is 3 over 2, 3 halves. So I'm still only adding that numerator because you don't ever add the denominators. If I wanted to use the same recipe and look up how many teaspoons of, actually we should stop, never mind.